Well, hello, everybody. Welcome in once again to another Get to Know the Royals segment right here on the Queen Sports Network. As always, I'm Mike Glennon, and I'm joined today by our assistant wrestling coach, Mr. Paul Bradley, here for the first time on the program as he takes some time out of his busy schedule here in the offseason. And Coach Bradley, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I know you just got back from Junior Nationals this past weekend, and this is a very busy time, I'm sure, in terms of recruiting. So, like I say, appreciate you carving out some time here. And of course, the recruiting idea and something not just from being a coach, but also from being a wrestler yourself. Am I right?
Correct. Yeah, it was definitely a busy week. Coach Tate and I flew out on Tuesday. We're in Omaha that afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
And Wednesday, Junior Nationals, all day wrestling. Then All American round on Thursday morning, and catching a flight at 6:30 at night. The red eye essentially took Friday off, and then we actually ended up going to NHSCA's, the National High School Championships. It was another hectic day. Got there on Saturday. Watched some wrestling, and then finished up on Sunday. So busy, and we're on that trail. So it was kind of good. We had everything all combined in one. We didn't have to go here, there, every other weekend. So, but it was definitely a grind. So,
well, it's funny. I broadcasted high school wrestling for a long time in the state of Colorado, and for one of the better programs out there. And that was one of the things coaches always told me. They're like, when people say the off season, they don't really know what that means, because there really is no off season, because wrestling really is a year-round sport, whether it's varsity wrestling during the winter time, and then obviously summertime on into all the national tournaments and all that kind of stuff as well. So more power to you in trying to keep up with all that.
Right.
Well, let's talk about your backstory with wrestling and your career. An '06 graduate from a storied Iowa wrestling program. You were a three-time team captain for the Hawkeyes, a Big Ten runner-up, three-time national qualifier, and a two-time All-American. So you're a guy that has wrestled the very best that collegiate wrestling has to offer. Can you just tell us a little bit about your early wrestling days and how you ended up at Iowa and just kind of your love for the sport?
Yeah, I started pretty young, second grade. I was kind of an ornery kid, a little bit crazy. I needed to take that energy out, and of course, that's every wrestler's story. But parents took me to kids club. I loved it right away, and started really progressing as I got a little bit older. Middle school, I took it very serious. I was a two-time AU state champ. Had a pretty good high school career, not the way I wanted it to be, but it ended with the state championship and a two-time runner-up finish. And,
nice.
I was recruited by some very good schools, Nebraska, Iowa State, UNI, and Iowa. And it was actually Iowa State who offered me the best offer, but dang, man, I'd always been a Hawkeye fan. So
fair enough.
Go against what I grew up watching. Like I said, I went there. What really got me to that program was, when I did lose in the state finals my junior year, coaches reached out after the fact, but I got a personalized letter from the head coach at the time, Jim Zaleski, and it went through my whole match, and it was right on. And he actually told me hang up my runner-up finish photo right next to my bed, so it was what I saw every morning when I got up, and every night before I went to bed. And that was really powerful. And I hung his letter up right next to it, so I never forgot that pain. And
awesome.
Like I said, I was sold and went to Iowa, and tough sledding for a minute, had to sit for a year, but well worth it. And like I said, the kid who they recruited for Iowa State, I only lost to once out of 8 times, so I think I made the right decision.
Hey, there you go. I like that. Yeah, and again, growing up a Hawkeye fan, I realized to become a Cyclone, it would have been a little bit of a tough sell. But you mentioned something that that the coach for Iowa did that obviously stuck out in your mind, and now that you have switched to the coaching ranks yourself, what is it that you have taken from your own wrestling experience and from what you've seen from other coaches to make it yours, and how do you bring that to the mat as a coach now?
Yeah, the biggest thing is building personal relationship with our student athletes and their families. I think that gets lost a little bit at the D1 level. It's more of a business type of aspect. It's best man in, backup. You know, you're basically the training partner. Where here it's like, I talk to our parents maybe once a month, twice a month. I make sure they know how their son's doing academically as well as athletically,
Good.
and making sure we have a solid foundation with our student athletes. Because if they don't trust in you, then they're not going to trust in themselves or believe in the training. And it's been good. I like to bring it up. The biggest difference. I coached at the D1 level for 2 years. The biggest difference is you can find college wrestling all over TV now, and every kid they want to go D1. That's every single kid. That's the dream. But
Oh yeah.
it's a little more challenging at the D2 level, but I like it because, like I said, we got to build. There's a fine line you towed, as in not telling the kid he's not good enough to go D1, but come here, personal relationships. We're going to take care of you academically, athletically. We're going to make sure you get everything you need. And I think that's much more fulfilling because you're selling them on a family environment and the school and everything. And it's kind of cool. Like, you get to know your student athletes a lot more, I feel, at the D2 level than even at the D1 level.
Sure. Well, and I feel like, obviously I know that's how you and Coach Tate run the program, is to make it feel like a family and obviously involve the families of all these players. I know I've seen you guys around campus with different recruit visits, and the entire family is there. It's not just the recruit and the coach, it's the entire family, because that's what it is. I mean, you're selling this experience to the entire family, because they want to know that their child is going to be taken care of while he's here on campus. Let me ask you this, in terms of, you mentioned it, kind of going from the Division I level, not just as a wrestler, but also as a coach. You were at Indiana, started there pretty quickly out of college, and then you were the assistant head coach at University of Buffalo. Being able to sell that kind of small school experience and nestled into such a big city itself, that's got to be a pretty good recruiting tool for you guys, in terms of saying, hey, listen, you get class sizes that'll get you an education and make you a better human being, but you also have the experiences that, maybe a bigger program could give you.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you hit on all the points. The biggest thing is, you don't get lost in the shuffle. When I was at Iowa, I was in a lecture hall of 800 and some people at one point. It's pretty easy to get lost in it, and you're not really held accountable if you don't show up to class, which, I'll tell kids the biggest thing is, I struggled that first year, had the freshman stuff going where it's like I'm getting beat up in the room. I'm kind of getting beat up in the classroom as well.
Sure.
But the biggest thing was when I made sure I went to my classes, spoke with my professors, personally, made those connections. I'll tell you what, school was a heck of a lot easier. And right now I'm in grad school, and it's the same thing. And I've never been a great student. But heck, man, I'm a 3.5 right now in grad school, which
there you go.
Little bandwagon bragging there, but like
it's all right. Brag away, my friend.
Yeah, it's just it's nice to be in these small classrooms, know your teacher, know the students, who you're working with. Everyone's on the same page. Like I said, Iowa, that freshman year, it was a little bit of free for all until I got into my major, and then even. You're talking 70, 80 people per classroom. Still a lot, but like I said, I was making sure that I was making those personal relationships with my professors, making sure I was asking what I could do better, what I needed, what I was critiqued on and whatnot. And like I said, and the biggest thing, Charlotte isn't a hard sell. We're 3 miles from the city. The campus is beautiful. Coach Tate likes to say, if he's late for something, he can make it all the way across campus on a 3-minute sprint. So
there you go.
That's always nice. Heart of Myers Park. You got parks all around, and yeah, it's just a beautiful campus, beautiful school with great academics, and it means something to get a degree from Queens.
Well, you mentioned something that strikes in me as well, because I did the same thing, went back to school later on in life, and I was fortunate enough to go to a school that had similar type class sizes. And, I always liked academics, but when you're in college that first time around, you're getting pulled in so many different directions, and just trying to understand who you are as a person at that time in your life. And so, to be able to appreciate the classroom and learning and stuff like that, that's something that I know as well. And I think it is something that definitely gets lost in translation, especially with bigger programs. And it's nothing to knock bigger programs. That's the thing. Athletics wise, they're fantastic. But like you said, for an 18-year-old kid that's just coming out of high school off on their own for the first time, it's a lot to get lost in. And it can be tough to kind of tread water, if you will, with that. But, looking at your experience in terms of coaching, you went away from coaching. I say went away from coaching, but at least at the collegiate level for a little bit. You went on to own your own club, the USA Ultimate Warrior Wrestling Club. You fought in the MMA ranks for 13 years before joining the staff here at Queens. First off, can you talk a little bit about the switch up from going just on the mat to going into the octagon as an MMA fighter? That's always something that's been very interesting to me. You see the pros do it and stuff like that, but what's that experience like, just shifting that completely?
I was missing something when I was, I wouldn't say it was something I needed to fulfill. I didn't finish my senior year the way I wanted to, becoming a 3-time All-American. I lost in what they call the blood round of 16. Had I won, I was guaranteed to be an All-American. That was tough. And that sat with me real hard. And, I went to Indiana. I'm not going to try to get off too much of the topic, but it comes full circle this year.
Sure.
I had a guy who was essentially a 500 wrestler the year before, and we got him all the way to the blood round, 184, same weight class, and he loses. And that was tough for me to swallow. And I went to Buffalo, and I just had the itch to kind of keep competing. I was competing at Indiana. They allowed me to be in the volunteer assistant as far as the MMA thing. And it just kind of spiraled. And, I'll never forget. We were in Las Vegas, actually. I didn't know this at the time. My manager from Indiana actually had sent my video and did the Ultimate Fighter TV show. And I'm sitting there in Vegas, and I get a phone call, and it's the UFC, and I'm thinking, what the heck? And we want you to fly out this weekend to do all our medicals and the interviews, yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking, well, heck, I'm already in Vegas. And, it was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had with the head coach, Jim Buechner, to tell him, I want to stay out here and check it out.
Sure.
And then ultimately I was picked. And it was one of those things. I talked with a lot of people. I talked with my head coach from Iowa, Jim Zaleski, and he gave me the best advice. It's like, it's not, what if type of thing. Go pursue it. If it doesn't work out, you can always get back into coaching. And essentially that's what happened. I resigned after the season, and crazy journey. And you see a lot of guys do it now from college wrestling. And I did it kind of when it was in its infant
Sure.
stages, 2006. Yeah. And I mean, I think there was like 6 UFCs a year or something,
Yes.
So,
I was saying now it's once a weekend.
Oh yeah. I mean, and all the different organizations back then,
Sure.
It was only the UFC. And sure enough, amazing experience. I got to travel. I wouldn't say the world, but I got to fight in Russia. I got to fight in Madison Square Garden. I got to fight on the first ever UFC on Fox card, which was absolutely amazing.
That's awesome.
Got to fight almost in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in front of my hometown, and
there you go.
honor one of my best friend's wives who had recently passed, which was amazing. I'll never forget those experiences, and I don't regret it for 1 second. But I always knew, eventually, I wanted to come back into the coaching realm, and I live vicariously through my my athletes now. That's who it's like the dad who lives through his son, but in a healthy way.
Sure. Yeah, I get you. You're using it productively.
I'm not the you lose your bad type. As we tell our guys, as long as you compete hard and you go out there, we're okay with you losing. And bringing it back full circle. This year, Noah Carreri's struggled in the past with some injuries. didn't get over the hump, and we got to the blood round, aka the round of 16 at the Nationals, and we pulled through, and I had my first collegiate All-American, and it was absolutely amazing. It was very special moment for me in my life and my coaching career, and
That's awesome.
yeah, can't say enough. Bringing the first ever, third year as a D2 program, fourth year total, but bringing the first ever All-American to Queens was a big deal, real big deal.
Well, you just mentioned it, and I definitely want to talk about Noah Carreri's bid this year and kind of the special bunch that you had this season alone. But, the one question I was going to ask you is, after all that stuff was coming to an end, you want to get back into the coaching ranks. How'd you end up here at Queens?
It's a kind of funny story. I retired from fighting, my very last fight, and it's one of those things where it was one of the stoppages where it was controversial because I was getting hit in the back of the head and I was standing up. And I'll never forget, I'm standing in the middle of the cage, and people are complaining. I just look at the ref and I was like, don't even worry about it. I was like, I'm done. Like, I knew it. And he kind of put his head down because he'd reffed a lot of my fights before. Mm-hmm. And I just knew it was time to move on. The sport had passed me. I'd become a little bit older, and you don't want to you see these guys hang around for too many fights and they have nothing. And, with all the brain studies and all that was becoming a big concern of mine. I don't want to end up like some of these football players, some of these guys who are, walking around stuttering, mumbling their words. And sure enough, I had no clue what I was going to do. I lived off my fight money for a little bit, and then I took a job working construction.
Okay.
And that was tough. I was scaffolding. I was actually up in Seattle, Washington, working at a naval base. And I'm like, God, I got to get out of this. This is a young man's job. This is tough. I'm hanging over buildings, and it's dangerous, although you're hooked in, but I don't have a great, I kind of have a fear of heights type thing. And
oh, man.
But I'm in Seattle, Washington. I'm like, God, I gotta get back into coaching, and I was already thinking, I was kind of thinking before I wanted to get a master's in education as well, maybe get back into the high school coaching or just teach. And out of the blue, it was Queens University popped up in November, and it's like, I've been to Charlotte one time, and
sure,
it seemed like a pretty awesome place. I was like, what the heck, I'll apply. And it was, so they flew me out right before the Nationals, I want to say in 2019.
Okay.
And I met with Tate, Coach Tate, and I met with Randall, I met with Sherry, and it was just a great fit. I was sold right away. Love the city, love the school, and everyone has the same vision for the program, whether it be wrestling, swimming. We all want what's best for our athletes academically and as well as athletically, and championships matter at Queens, and that's why I'm here.
And that's the thing, championships matter at Queens, but they also matter to a point where you're not throwing your academics to the side to get those championships. You know what I mean? And it's an amazing place to find that kind of balance that you can compete at your highest level, both in and out of the classroom. It's not very often that you can find, both. It's usually one or the other. But this is a special place in terms of that. Just to talk a little bit about you as a recruiter, and having to kind of go all to these places, to all these different tournaments. And of course, you're not the only folks that are there trying to recruit these kids. Can you just talk a little bit about the kind of the challenges that you face in a typical recruiting season? Now, granted, I realize that this year has been anything but typical, but just kind of, those challenges that you face and how you try to overcome those with both you and Coach Tate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously COVID-19 hit everyone pretty hard. We actually thought it was going to help us on the recruiting scene, which it kind of has gotten. Kids are not, they've either signed early or they are waiting and they're banking on themselves, which I can't say that that's a bad thing. Sure. You're betting on yourself, but a lot of the kids are not. They either sign extremely early or they're waiting till after their state tournament, which is North Carolina. It's like June 23rd or something. So,
wow.
it's been tough because we've had a lot of restrictions on being able to go out and see these
Sure.
athletes. Thankfully, it kind of just opened up, and we were able to go to, like I said, junior college. We were able to go to NHSCAs in Virginia Beach. Myrtle Beach, we weren't allowed to at Super 32 as coaches. And then, which is kind of benefited us because D1 is actually they're on a dead period till June 1st. So it was nice because I was able to, once those kids were out of the tournament or done with the tournament, especially at NHSCAs, I was able to speak with them, their family, their coaches. Really, really cool thing. But as we all know, like COVID really hurt everything as far as going and visiting recruits and having them come on campus. It's a virtual tour. It's tough. It's tough to sell a kid on a school they can't step foot on. So
especially when they're not from around here.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of, this is probably the biggest thing is we had 2 junior college kids flying in last year. I think we booked their tickets in March when we were at the Nationals. Well, heck, COVID hit and they couldn't fly. Man. And we couldn't get them. They were coming all the way from Oregon. So, it's tough. You can only tell them so much about the school, but
sure,
let's be real. Everyone wants to step on campus and want to be in the room. They want to see the environment. They want to feel what it's like to actually be there. Like I said, virtual is very tough. And thankfully things are starting to open up. We're able to have kids on campus. So we've done a lot of our recruiting this spring. And it's, like I said, we're really setting our sights high on these juniors coming in. And we've signed 3 guys and we're looking to sign about 3 more. And
awesome.
It's like I said, COVID's been tough though, man. Been super tough. So,
and that's kind of the plight right now. It's just kind of, working within the means and whatever you can get and stuff like that. But, you and Coach Tate strike me as 2 guys that, you've been through ups and downs in your careers and, you've seen both sides of the spectrum, both as a wrestler and now as a coach. And so I feel like it's one of those things that speaks to you a little bit more and you're able to use your own experiences and reflect back on that and say, hey, listen, I know it's tough right now, but here's the things you can expect by coming here and, just trying to build that family atmosphere here at Queens.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you just said, it's me and Coach Tate, we both wrestle at the D1 level. It's a different aspect. It's
sure.
You're a training partner till you're in the lineup. It's a business. It really is. Yeah. And I get it. I wrestled for University of Iowa and, everyone knows that storied career with Gable and the national titles and the 21 straight Big Ten titles. And, we were good when I was there. We took home 2 trophies, second and I believe 4th, but we all know at Iowa, that's not good enough. That is not good enough. And they've turned the program back around. They were national champs this year and you got Penn State knocking on the door, but yeah, it's definitely, ups and downs with the recruiting, so.
And I feel like, you can use that understanding of Division I. It'd be different if your entire life was spent at the D2, D3 level. The fact that you had that actual wrestling experience, not as a coach, but as a wrestler at the Division I level, you could say, listen, guys, this is what you can expect. You know what I mean? And it's for good or bad, whether those kids come here or not, you can at least say, listen, this is what you can expect. And if that's something that you're okay with, then, that's your life, your choice. But if you want a real education and the ability to compete at a high level, then, this is a great place to be. And this is a great stepping stone for that.
Yeah. You see in the transfer portal every week,
yeah,
new kids coming in every time, a lot of those kids, especially, in the North Carolina, South Carolina area, I was recruiting them and, like I said, it's a great thing for the sport of wrestling because you can find Division I wrestling on any channel. But when kids see that, they emulate that as that's what I got to do if I'm going to be successful. And like I said, our regional tournament, you see a lot of the top guys that they're from the Division I. That came down. It's not always it's not all bells and whistles at the D1. It's tough. Yeah. It's dog eat dog. It's one of those things. It's like made the best man win, but you're not the top guy. You know, I look back, this is, you know, I get on these stories and it just brings back memories. I mean, I had a torn meniscus, and I like to tell my athletes this just to show I'm like tough, you know, but I had a torn meniscus my freshman year, and I limped through the season. I did pretty dang well with it as a redshirt freshman, and you know, the University of Iowa, I was a main training partner for the two-time All-American ahead of me, and
Oof.
they're like, yeah, they had me go in and get it scoped instead of repaired, so I could be back on the mat in a week to drill and start wrestling with them live before the nationals. So, like I said, it's a business. Like at that point, I was just a training partner, getting a guy ready, and I really do. I give our head trainer Caroline Cannell. I always say her name, Cannell. She genuinely cares for the athletes. Like
Awesome.
if it means like them having problems like later on in life, knees, shoulders, like she'll hold them out. And it's tough as me because, like I said, I wrestled with a torn rotator, bad knee, but that, you know, that was just Iowa. They grabbed me through it. But like I said, she treats every single athlete the same as if you're a backup or a starter. And like I said, we butt heads sometimes on little things like a sprained ankle, this and that, but all in all, she's looking out for, you know, the athlete and his best interests and, you know, his overall health the rest of his life. And she does a great job. Great job.
Well,
Can't say enough.
Like you said, you know, a shout out to Caroline, but also shout out to our entire sports medicine department, because that's one thing that I know any coach I talk to, they make sure to go out of their way to mention that, you know, throughout, because of the fact that, you know, you're not the only ones with the best interest of these kids at heart. Everybody from the administration down to sports medicine and everywhere in between, you know, is here to make sure that these young men and women leave this school as better people, whether it's health-wise, mentally, whatever it might be, and just preparing them on. So let's turn our attention now to this year's team. And I know we talked about it, a very special bunch of guys, including a handful of regional qualifiers. And, of course, the biggest story this season was the program's first ever All-American, Noah Carreri. And you mentioned it, a guy that you saw a lot of yourself in terms of having to battle back from some early injuries in his career. And now he stands alone as the only All-American in just the first couple of years, but still the only All-American in program history. And he will always be, there could be 1,000 All-Americans from here on at Queen's University, but he will always be the first one. So can you talk about kind of his season and how special it was to sit back and watch that as a coach?
You know, it was, it had its ups and downs, AKA bumps in the road. I mean, we lost the Newberry guy pretty bad. We lost the Lander guy real bad. You know, there's specific things I can point out. You know, thankfully his back was stronger. We all know he's had he has a broken back, and that's something I can relate to him because I had the exact same injury, and I think that helped him knowing a guy like me who's in his corner has been through that exact same injury. It's very common to wrestlers and in gymnasts. So I was able to, you know, give him, you know, have the right workouts for him, not too hard on his back, you know, just some mental aspect. You know, he was dealing with that last year, and somehow we got him to nationals. And maybe it was a blessing in disguise COVID-19 happened because, you know, we limped into that tournament with a really bad back, and we gave it all summer to heal, this and that. And, you know, started off our season with our first duel in January. I believe we won, but then we hit Lander, and we got beat pretty good. We got majored, and, you know, won some more, then we got beat pretty good against Newberry. And so going in the regional tournament, we're seated third. Well, they only take top two, you know, so we had to battle, and our first match we were good. Then we lost to Newberry, which we didn't wrestle well. We can wrestle better. We can beat that kid. But on the backside, I point to this moment because we had to win 3 in a row. I tell him, you're probably going to end up with the Lander kid. And he kind of put his head down. It's like, oh, man, like I have to I'm like, Noah, listen, dude, this is it. You can flip the switch now, or we can go down the wrong road and be done with the season. And Coach Ventura went over and talked with him, and And I don't know what the heck he said, but all of a sudden he gets uplifted. And I had told him before, you stopped the Lander kid on his blast double twice. I might have said once, whatever.
Sure.
But either way, you stop him, you're going to beat him because it's going to break him because he's very athletic, very strong, and that's how he beat us last time. We stopped him twice, and then we actually reattacked and scored, and I knew we had him.
Love
and he
it.
ended up majoring the kid, and he got on this roll, and he wins 2 more, and he's wrestling for true second, dominates that guy. Best I'd seen him. Pretty amazing achievement, considering we had to battle back on the back end and weren't even expected to make it. And then get to the Nationals, we lose the number 1 seed who was dang tough. Just the way the bracket worked out, we bye to the blood round, and kid was good. Kid was dang good. He only lost to the national runner-up 5-4, and
wow,
it was a dogfight. I mean, I remember at one point I'm looking at him. He had this kind of far-off look in his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, he's kind of losing focus, and they had a reset. And I remember screaming at him, "You have 40 seconds. How bad do you want to be an All-American?" And
I love it.
And it flipped. It flipped. And I go back to my coaching experience, or not coaching, my college experience. I'll never forget quarterfinals my sophomore year. I looked over at Coach Zaleski. We had about 30 seconds left. I had to get a takedown to win. And, I win that match. I'm for sure All-American, top 6. And I looked at him, and he said the exact same thing. "How bad do you want to be an All-American?" And I kind of smiled and winked at him, went out and blast doubled the guy, and he did the same, pulled through. It was a little bit more anticlimactic, I would say, because we got in a scramble at the end. But
Gotcha.
Once he became an All-American, it was like
listen. Sometimes those scrambles, though, those can be fun. Now, I'm sure as a coach and a wrestler's perspective, it's nerve-wracking. But
I had the worst headache after. It was like too much. I was mind blown. It's just like all of these years, all the pressure, with Noah and injuries, and Queens desperately needing their first All-American.
Sure.
Just a selling point in recruiting. You can do it here. So that was huge. It was pretty dang emotional for all of us.
That's
like
awesome.
like I said, me especially, and obviously Coach Tate being his first All-American as a head coach. I mean, it was special. And after that, we ended up taking 8th, but we battled. I
mean, with the road you had to travel, it's one of those things that getting to that All-American berth and becoming an All-American for Noah is a feat in and of itself. And, sure, every guy's idea when they go to college is to win a national title, but there are very few guys that will ever do that, and so you have to understand what it is you accomplished. And sometimes that's easier said than done in a moment like that. But it's interesting to hear, kind of just watching that switch flip and just say, okay, it's lock-in time. Let's go get it done. I mean, that, like you said, that had to be a pretty special moment for everybody, both coaches and wrestling. So
yeah, amazing moment. And you brought it up. Every guy wants to win a national title, but it doesn't always work out that way. And I'll never forget watching the NCAA Division Ones this year, and I'm watching the semifinals, and I made it to that match, and I didn't give myself enough credit back then. It was always national title or nothing. But I'm like looking at the guys competing, and I'm like, these guys are like really good, and you see it on the Olympic team right now. Thomas Gilman, our representative at 125, whatever weight that is. I always mess it up. He never won a national title,
No.
It's my teammate, world silver medalist, Mike Zadek, he never won a national, so just shows you the level of competition, and it mattered. I mean, being an All-American is a big thing. I tell, another selling point when I'm recruiting is, I'll tell you what, those top 1 to 3 guys at the D2 levels, they can compete at D1. And
sure,
a lot of them are transfers down from D1, but specifically I'm thinking of the kid that beat us opening round. That kid's from Old Dominion, where
Mm.
we all know they lost their program, and he was like 23-10,
Wow.
So super good. And, the Central Oklahoma guy, heck, he's from University of Oklahoma, where he was like,
Mm.
I want to say 18-3 his freshman year. And then
Man.
for whatever reason came to Central Oklahoma, won it. And, I really wish they'd go back to this, but years ago, if you won the Division II and Division 3, they
Mhm.
allowed you to compete at the Division I.
Oh,
And,
really?
yeah, it was pretty awesome. And Cal State Bakersfield, they were like a powerhouse in D2, and they'd go to D1s and have All-Americans and national champs. So I just
Wow.
wish they'd do that again, but I'm sure
That would be just as a wrestling fan, that would be a lot of fun to see that happen.
It's
again.
awesome. Yeah, I mean, Carlton Hasselrig, first ever 6-time national champ, 3 times in D2, 3 times D1. Crazy. So
Yeah, that's wild. Well, Coach, before I let you go, just can you give folks at home just kind of a quick blurb into what you think the future of this team is? Because I know you guys have some, like you mentioned, some good recruits coming in. You guys got some solid guys coming back next year. How bright is the future for this program here at Queens?
Very bright. The goal is obviously to win conference and regional titles, and if I'm being realistic, a top 10 team within 5 years. That's where we want to be. That's where we should be. Obviously, the goal is to be, a top 4 team because you take home a trophy. With that being said, I think we can do it? Absolutely. Got to get the right guys in here. We've got to start to get excited. I get excited when I talk about wrestling and what we can bring in. It's a passion. Like I said, when I was competing, it was all about me. When I was wrestling or fighting. Now it's like all about my guys. So that being said, we're bringing in some solid recruits. If I can name them, I can never say his name right. Nico D'Amico, Italian name, of course, from Maryland, 2-time champ, 4-time placer.
Awesome.
First guy that we signed. He had to wait a while because of the COVID and all that. And,
sure.
The dead period, and he believed in us. He believed in me and Coach Tate and the program and where we're going with it. And we weren't able to officially sign him until February, even though he committed in October or something. Just signed Riley Kuhn out of Alabama, farm strong looking kid, a state champ, a 3-time runner up, and I believe I'm saying 4th.
Okay.
And then we just signed Griffin. Why am I drawing a blank? I'm drawing a blank right now. Dang it. Great kid. He's going to be our starting 125-pounder next year.
Oh, nice.
Two-time Maryland State qualifier. We're excited about him. And then we got a couple of dark horses that we're trying to sign. But like I said, a lot of these kids are betting on themselves because the state tournament's June 23rd. So it's really weird in that aspect, signing guys that late, because I know I wanted to sign early because I wanted all the pressure off,
Yeah, no, I get you. Absolutely.
Yeah, but I like how confident they are because they're betting on themselves. So I can't hate on it. But but I will say we're really focused on this junior going to be senior class, and we got some. I'm not going to name names, but we got
sure.
2 studs I'm thinking of, and some other really good guys. And
awesome.
That NHSCA tournament, I'm so glad I went to it, me and Tate, and I'm so glad we got to see that type of competition because I got to see guys I would have never known had.
Yeah. That's the beauty of those competitions. You know what I mean? You get to see guys you're like, man, I never even knew you existed, but glad you do.
Yeah, and one of them being, it's kind of, it's funny how this all works out and it's intertwined, but one of the guys I was recruiting that I'm very high up on, his opponent gave him one heck of a match. Lost by 5, but never quit.
Sure.
Never gave an inch. And shortly after his match, I walked over to his coach and I said, I'm actually looking at the other kid, but take my card, have him get a hold of me. So
I love it.
You can never have too many ducks in a row, as they say.
Well, and that's the thing is, sometimes for a kid, that's the only break they need is for someone just to say, hey, listen, I like what I saw. You may have come up on the short end in terms of the win, but you fought. And that's what I want is I want guys that are come and compete. And so Coach, I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for reminiscing a little bit with me here on your own wrestling career. It's funny. I absolutely love calling wrestling, and I hated the fact that I got here so late because I had missed all of your wrestling matches here at home. But I'm excited. I'm very excited looking ahead towards next year and for the next few years for this program, because I'd like to be here when you guys become that top 10 team. I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. Like I said, the goal is to top 10, All-American. And now, we got the All-American. What's our next step? Let's get that national title. First national title in Queens history. That's something that, like I said, Noah Kerr is always going to hold the distinction of the first All-American.
Yep.
And I know one guy who's going to be battling named Melvin Rubio to be the first national champion. I got a couple all our guys, honestly, they're going to be battling. It was just this year with COVID, they brought down the qualifiers. So it was you can't take anything away from this year because it was a lot tougher to qualify. That's the craziest thing, Yeah. So it was like less guys, but way less matches to win it and become an All-American or whatever. But I'll tell you what, that first
competition level.
Yeah, you're gonna face someone that was.
Yeah.
So it was just it was a great year. It was a tough year as far as I'm sorry I get on these tangents, but
no, you're fine.
The dual meet season was tough, but I'll tell you what, those kids wrestled their butts off at regionals. Proud of every single one of them. We competed above our seeds. It just, like I said, it didn't turn out in the long run. We ended up with one qualifier when legitimately we almost had 3 others qualify. So couldn't be more proud how we finished the season, how we finished strong. Because in the end, dual meets matter, but what really matters is that national tournament.
Amen to that. Well, Coach, I appreciate you joining us. Thank you again, and best of luck on into the rest of this off season, quote unquote. And like I say, best of luck in terms of recruiting, and cannot wait to see you guys get back on the mats back later on this year.
All right, thank you for having me. It was great talking.
My pleasure. That'll do it for us here for Get to Know the Royals. Make sure you come back and join us every Tuesday right back here on YouTube. We'll see you next time. As always, I'm Mike Glennon. Thanks for Coach Bradley. Have a good one, and always go Royals.